I think two things, what we see in that 8 to 10, 10 to 12 range is, like you say, a lot of coach abandonment during the catch play. And it's, all right, we need to get into, the fungo, start fungo into bases. Just as soon as we can get into those drills that we see on YouTube, the better. And I think at those levels, I think there's a mental health component that we miss a lot. But that catch play, for me, to kind of build on what you guys were saying too, is for me as a coach, that's not only just catch play, but that's my mental health check-in with the kids and getting to know them.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Clearing the Bases, the podcast where we step up to the plate and dive deep into the world of youth baseball. I'm your host, Jimmy Filangieri. On this show, we discuss all things related to the preparation and development of youth baseball players, coaches, and yes, even parents. So sit back, settle in, and get ready to hear from some of the greatest baseball minds out there.
How much should coaches focus in on specializing to certain positions at, I'll say that 11, 12-year-old age range versus, sticking with, I'll say, the movement that we push through the 8-year-old level, 9-year-old level. And then I see it now, 13, 14-year-olds, where our junior guys are, saying, hey, you better have 3-4 positions you know how to play. Like it's going into high school, because it's not just going to be one. You better, if it's just one, you're going to be extremely limited in how much playing time you have. So I'm just wondering, at what time do you start to specialize maybe in specific positions?
To be able to reach the highest levels of this game, you got to work hard. You got to get in the cages. You got to do your strength and conditioning. You got to throw your bullpens. There's all of this physical stuff that you need to do, and you need to work hard at it. But don't forget that you also have to get better at the mental side of the game. And one of the ways you can do that is increase baseball IQ by downloading and using the 6-Tool app.
For baseball coaches like you, every game brings measurable progress. However, game time isn't the time for trial and error learning. Instead, have a proactive approach. Use 6-Tool, the best baseball player development tool on the market. We provide a platform to level up your coaching strategy by helping you to quickly identify and address your players' knowledge of the game. By using our easy-to-implement interactive player quizzes, you can assess position-specific issues, overall baseball IQ, and much more. Win more games and develop better overall baseball players with effective off-the-field training. Visit us at 6-tool.com. 6-Tool. Get ahead in the game.
We're going to bring back a format that sparked some real conversation a while ago. Back in July of 2023, I did an episode called The Parent Point of View, which was a panel-style discussion. And based on the response of that first one, it's a format that I'm really considering making a regular part of the show. So the goal is simple: bring multiple experienced voices together, hear real questions from the youth baseball community, and let the conversation happen without a filter. So today, serving as panelists for this discussion are Jeff Sopha and Kevin Coe, and everybody out there knows them because they've been on the show before. They play a central role in helping guide the dialogue. They challenge perspectives, and they keep the conversation grounded in what actually matters at the youth level. So today, our guests are from Santa Teresa Little League in San Jose, California, are Kevin Woodard, Majors Division Director at the 12U level, a Juniors Division coach for 13, 14-year-olds, and a member of the Little League District 59 staff. And Kevin is also an assistant coach or helps coach at the Oak Grove High School in San Jose. We also have Robert Wallinger, Vice President of the Santa Teresa Little League. This isn't a traditional interview, it's a roundtable discussion. No scripts, no talking points, just honest answers to real questions about development, competition, parents' pressure, and what's truly best for kids in the game. So before we started recording, we were talking a little bit, and one of the questions that we're going to start out with is going to be, how do coaches, youth level coaches, little league coaches, how can they take the information that they're receiving from, say, high level coaches, higher level coaches, and stuff that they see on YouTube, social media, how can they take that and bring it to the younger kids, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Who wants to open it up? We could go KC, Jeff, either one.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right. Kevin, you want to volley this back and forth a little bit, see where we take it?
Sure. I'll let you start.
All right. Well, look, here's my thought on this, Kevin and Robert. For me, I feel like you can never go wrong grounding your team's work in fundamentals. Whether they're 9, whether they're 10, whether they're high school guys, we spend 25 minutes playing catch every day, regardless, right? Catch play is the essence of the game. Throw well, receive well, set our bodies, have good athletic movement through all of the fundamental work that we do, whether it's hitting, running, fielding. So whenever I see high level advanced techniques, I always encourage youth coaches, understand the why. Some of these drills are a little wacky, and that's for a specific fix to a very high level athlete's unique need at his point in his baseball career or hers. And sometimes we're trying to move the top hand, the bottom hand. Sometimes we're trying to get better reads on balls, and we do a lot of unique things to over exaggerate a movement so that athlete can develop a feel. So when you see things on YouTube, when you hear coaches talking, always make sure we understand the why. And when I talk to youth kids and youth coaches, my guidance is always, if you can't explain the why we're doing it in 30 seconds or less, and that athlete can't respond back to you his interpretation of the why within 30 seconds, we probably shouldn't be doing that drill. So I would emphasize and I would orient everything we do on the essential fundamentals, particularly if it's a younger athlete. Remember, they don't have the fine motor skills, they don't have the frontal cortex to take a lot of that in. So simplify, simplify. That's my approach.
And I kind of piggybacking on what Jeff said. You have to be careful on the drills that you're teaching kids. Okay. Little league, to me, when you say little league, it's recreational baseball, right? It's kids kind of learning at the infancy stages. They're learning how to catch. They're learning how to throw. The speed of the game sometimes is a little too fast for them. So like installing elite level drills in a little league practice can cause some chaos. And you might want to start by scaling it back. And like that catch play, like playing catch is critical, because if they can't catch and throw the baseball where they want it to go consistently, they're gonna make some bad throws, right? But consistently, I'm talking like 85-90% of the time, then they shouldn't be doing elite level drills. They need to go back to playing catch, learning the forcing grip to throw, like setting their body, their front side, so that, and using their backside to throw the baseball. And once they can do that, then you can install the elite level drills. And so like, but those elite level drills usually are for the more advanced kids. And so like kids kind of separate themselves. There's some kids that just kind of enjoy recreational baseball. Parents sign them up for it. They love the camaraderie of the teammates. They love the coach because they make it fun. And then you have some kids that are serious about it. And those elite level drills are for those kids that are actually serious about it. And so at our academy, we kind of have both worlds in our academy, and we use the same programming for it, but it's paced differently. And so like with our elite level teams, when we come in, we bring our new 9 and 10-year-old kids in that have tried out, they've showed the athleticism and the skills to make our elite level program. We start them out with like what we call an everyday program. It's something that they have to do every day, and we install that in the very first practice. And they may only usually practice, our infield practice usually lasts like an hour and 15 minutes. And you're talking about starting on your knee and wrist flips and and then getting to their feet and kind of learning to use their backside and then stretching it out to where, they get to about 30, 40 feet and the accuracy just kind of goes to trash, right? And then we bring them back and then they start fielding. And they're back 5 feet apart, rolling the ball back and forth to one another. And the it depending on the talent level of the kids, it'll take a while for us to kind of get through that. And our first hour and 15-minute practice, we may only do that, like the everyday, install the everyday drills. And I inform my instructors and let them know, like, look, it's going to take a long time to install this the first practice, but once they get it, it'll take 5 to 10 minutes to do it each and every other practice. And then you can advance to some of the other drills. But once they get those everyday drills and they're seeing the ball go in their glove and they're building confidence of being able to get their grip and throw it where they want to go, then that's when you install the elite level drills. But it's got to be paced. It's got to be timed right. And you can't do something too early. And know that the first time that they do something, they're not going to do it right. It's going to be all over the place. And I get on my kids because we do short hop drills pretty much every day. And some of our kids, they're 6 weeks into it and they still struggle with it because they don't understand like when they're supposed to catch the ball and how they're supposed to be aggressive with their hands. And so they wind up chasing the ball more than they catch it, and so it'll take some time. You can, but you have to be careful with it. And like Jeff said, make sure you're installing the fundamentals before you go to this elite level stuff. And that goes with running the bases, that goes with hitting, and all of the other things that go with it.
If I can just expand on that a little bit, what you guys just said. Okay, so I'll give you an idea. Like at the high school level, our throwing progression is 20 different drills within that progression. When we first present it to our freshmen and even our sophomores, because they still need work on it, we do 2, maybe 3 of those drills at a time until they understand how to do it. The other thing at the youth level, which I believe is very important, and sometimes I see this happen, is when the players are doing their catch play, which is so important, the coaches are really not paying attention. This is a great, great time, okay, to instruct kids. Walk through when they're throwing. Make sure that their hands are centered. Make sure they're centering the ball. Make sure they're moving their feet. Correct them. Don't just walk away and say, okay, guys, I told you to throw the ball, throw it, and whatever happens, happens. Okay? You need to be involved. You need to coach.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
I love that you guys are talking about catch play so much, Kevin. You mentioned it multiple times. So for Kevin and Robert and other youth coaches that are listening, there's a reason why we keep talking about catch play. At youth baseball, the teams that throw well, receive well, they win more games. So while I'll readily admit there's no always or nevers in the game of baseball because craziness ensues, we all know this. There's some truisms that kind of hold well through over time. And one of them is this. There will always be a standout athlete at any age that can do things better, bigger, faster. We don't want to adjust for that guy. We want to adjust for the normal, the regular, I should say, the average of our team. So I always tell coaches, again, this is not a hard and fast rule, but let's remember that 6 to 8 years old is this gigantic game of discovery. We're learning what bat and ball are. So if you're a t-ball coach, ball in play, opportunity to pick the ball up, throw the ball, we want to emphasize those in practices. When we have 8 to 10, we're starting to develop a little athleticism. Our feet are getting underneath us a little bit. So while we're still focusing on the throw catch skills, we can introduce a little more running drill work. We can get a little bit into maybe where to throw baseballs, but we're still mostly catching balls. Maybe by 8 and 10, we're working with more fly balls out of the sky than we were at 6 and 8, where the ball's coming off a tee. And 10 to 12. Now we can start talking a little more advanced with some of this. And we understand it now. Hey, bodies are starting to grow for these kids a little bit. Some are showing a little bit of strength. So we can talk about that next level of baseball, which is, okay, Kid pitch has kind of come with 9 and 10, right? So now we can maybe get into a little bit of mechanics. I really don't like to overemphasize mechanics with kids. So when you're doing drills, I like to let their bodies be naturally athletic, but we can start talking about different arm slots for infielders, knowing full well they're not going to always know when to move to your right. We've got these 2, 3, 1 o'clock even arm slots, and we move to our left. We're going to be more on top if we're a middle infielder. But it's a good time to introduce the concept of getting back on a fly ball and coming through the receive, treating, batting practice as an opportunity to get power shags, right? Start building some of the routines that will service them better when they get older. And now we can then think, okay, 13s and 14s, maybe, we're getting ready for high school. That's that year you talked about, Kevin, where, it's like, hey, we're getting ready for high school. Well, your best friend, 13 and 14, is know what the weight room is. I'm not saying you got to be the big bodybuilder, but we should be understanding what a good squat looks like, and what dumbbells are and how they work and what muscle groups we want, right? What movements from a functional strength standpoint in the weight room can help us become prepared for a high school team. Because, hey, if you're going to play varsity baseball as a freshman, you're going to be sitting around with some guys that got some man bodies. We got hair growing in places now, and some guys are going to be really fast and they're going to be strong. As a 15-year-old, I want to be able to compete with that. That's not always the case. If you're at a big high school, you might just be the freshman guy, and that's okay, because your curve is this up and down, this ebb and flow of your body growing and changing. And don't forget, even starting, at 10, when kids start to show some growth, one year they're going to be the small guy on the team, and then they're going to go home for summer break and grow 2 inches and a shoe size. And that next year they're going to be clumsy because they got this new big body. It doesn't mean they're not a good baseball player, a good athlete. That just means they're growing with their body. So when I think about drills and I think about what my focus, I go back to that basic, I guess, timeline of how athletes' bodies adjust, and I orient my practices around them. I meet them where they are, where the team is, and I don't want to over orient to the kid who's not quite caught up, or maybe he's in that growth year, and I don't want to over orient to the kid who's accelerated a little bit, because I know over time it evens out, and that timeline sort of holds true.
So I'd like to hear from Robert and Kevin, unless Casey, you had something to add to that.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
Give us a little bit of feedback what you just heard. You just heard a lot of stuff, so you're drinking through a fire hose here. But give us your opinion on what was just said.
Go for it, Kevin.
I think two things. What we see in that 8 to 10, 10 to 12 range is, like you say, a lot of coach abandonment during the catch play.
Yeah.
And it's, all right, we need to get into, the fungo, start fungo into bases. Just as soon as we can get into those drills that we see on YouTube, the better. And I think at those levels, I think there's a mental health component that we miss a lot. But that catch play, for me, to kind of build on what you guys were saying too, is, for me as a coach, that's not only just catch play, but that's my mental health check-in with the kids and getting to know them. That if there's a kid, especially at that 10 to 12 level and older, that I see just isn't himself, because the kids are all spread out playing catch, that's a great time for me to check in with them. And like something's off, that's when I can kind of grab them and pull them aside, check in, make sure everything's good. And stuff like that makes the practice so much better when you can do that at the beginning. And I don't think some of that stuff's taught enough, especially the mental health side. But as far as the catch play, yeah, it's huge. We see so much of it, Robert and I, that we go to these games and it's an overthrown first base. It's, the double play that could have been, 2 or 3 times a game, just from not emphasizing that catch play at the beginning.
What do you have, Robert? I want to hear from you.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said. It kind of jogs memories of certain games and certain practices, or even how I managed, when I coming through the ranks and just finished the 12U, through 12U managing, and started in T-ball, and just I've seen this progression, and now I get to start all over again with a 4-year-old I have who's going to start T-ball, and I'm going to go through another 8 years of this progression, and now I have all this knowledge and experiences I've gone through, and you guys have hit on a lot of things that I think are really important for coaches to understand, and the main things that like popped out were truly focus in early on the fundamentals and make sure they get it right. Not just like I did the drill, but like actually did you do the drill right? And then we'll move on kind of thing. I think oftentimes it's like, okay, it's been 5 minutes, we've done it, but it's been like really crap performance, or like how they did it was just wrong. It's like, okay, well, we did that. Let's move on to the next thing. And we're thinking, okay, they got better, right? And then the going around and talking to the kids during catch play, I do it myself. And you get a sense where kids are at for the day. You can kind of get an idea, like, okay, what am I about to get out of them? And it somehow it's all of them, right? Like it's like, okay, a couple guys are down, and all of a sudden the whole team is like just not playing the way you want them to do or what you expect them to do, and you can kind of cater, maybe not in the games, but you can kind of cater a practice to kind of counter that if you're paying attention, right? So I do think that's something that we gotta really press on coaches is the beginning of practice when when you're trying to get coordinated on what you're going to do in practice. Sometimes it's as easy as go do the catching right. They're going to throw 80 times to each other, and they're going to like, here, let me do a Derek Jeter throw, or let me do a sidearm, or hey, I really got this really cool knuckleball, right? And I don't want to take the fun out of it, but in some cases, like let's do some other things right first, and then you guys can have a little bit of fun with it after. So yeah, no, that was all great stuff. I do have a question that came up while this was being said, and I think we see this a lot as you get into that 11, 12, and then we revert back to it in the 13, 14. But we stress development, positional movement, go try all the positions, infield, outfield, pitching, catching, everything with obviously that the kid's being able to play first base. You can't just throw any kid at first base and expect them, to catch the ball. Some just aren't ready yet. But um, how much should coaches focus in on specializing to certain positions at I'll say that 11, 12 year old age range versus you know going sticking with, I'll say, the movement that we push through the 8 year old level, 9 year old level. um, and then I see it now, 13, 14 year olds, where our junior guys are, saying, hey, you better have 3, 4 positions you know how to play. Like going into high school, because it's not just going to be one. You better, if it's just one, you're going to be extremely limited in how much playing time you have. So I'm just wondering, at what time do you start to specialize maybe in specific positions?
Well, I'll take this one. It's kids will kind of will let you know when they should be at one position most of the time. Like your best shortstop's probably going to play shortstop for most of the time, right? And so, but then the other positions, your right fielder, your second baseman, your first baseman, it may be like they're rotating, you're rotating guys to kind of figure out who it is. Case in point, I'll give you case in point. I was on a panel last week at the ABCA with Arizona's coach, and they had a kid that got drafted in the first round last year, Brendan Summerhill. And Brendan played with my son in high school. My son was a junior and Brendan was a freshman. Excuse me. Brendan caught varsity as a freshman his in high school, right? He was clumsy. He was tall. I guess he had just gone through a growth spurt. He got drafted in the first round as the center fielder for Arizona last year. You know what I mean? And so, like, you never know where they're gonna turn out. Like I watched him, like catchers don't run 6'4s. I've seen Brendan Summerhill run a 6'4. You know what I mean? And so they're still growing into their bodies. I'm always, you got to be structurally sound up the middle. Like you got to have a strong catcher, you got to have a strong shortstop, you guys have a strong center fielder, and then everybody else is just kind of filling in as they go. And eventually you'll have somebody, he's going to hit a growth spurt, his arm's going to get stronger, and you'll lock him in at certain positions. But like I, it never changed. Like I was all state shortstop in high school. And I went to junior college because I got drafted and they threw me in the outfield. I was playing center field my freshman year in college. You know what I mean? And so, they're right. You better learn how to play two, three, four positions. That way you can always get on the field. And so, but the most important thing, these days, if you watch college and professional baseball, there ain't a lot of defense going around. Like if I have a saying that I've used for the last 20 years: if you hit, you don't sit. So it doesn't matter what position you play. If you want to get in the lineup, you better swing that pole, and you'll have a lot of success. You'll figure out how to play defense in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, I use the same. I use the same thing. I mean, I always tell my players, if you can hit, I'll find a spot for you defensively. Don't worry about it.
Let me wade into the deep end here a little bit on this because man, Kevin, KC, man, you brought some good stuff up here. It's funny you were talking about your own career. My son's going to play. He's a senior in high school. And he's committed to college, and one of the first things coach asked him, he says, "Man, you got some speed. Would you like to play some outfield for us? We'd like to have you in the outfield." Now he's been a middle infielder his whole life, but right. You got to play. So I'm going to kind of slowly wade in a couple of things. And this also gets a little bit to parents' expectations. So when we were talking earlier about, the things we should do at different age groups, right? Winning a baseball game at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I'm just going to keep going here, means absolutely nothing about your recruitability or any of that. It has a tremendous amount to do with your enjoyment of the game, your love and your passion that you're building year over year as you play, that brings you back the next year. We mentioned earlier that we learned, through the work we're doing at the Youth Summit, that the average term of a child's experience in baseball, youth baseball, is about 3.3 years. We'd like that to be 4 years, 5 years, or further. And all of us who love this game want to see kids continue to grow with it. So, again, this is more about process and development than it is outcome. So if we think about positions and focusing on a specific position, we want parents and athletes to understand no bueno, right? We know that when you get to high school, I'm sorry, I love your son, but he's probably not the starting shortstop, right? There's always somebody that's the dude. When you get to college, it definitely not the starting shortstop, right? And if he is, outstanding. But maybe he should be a second baseman. Maybe he could be a third baseman. Maybe he could be a left fielder. And he's going to get in the game and instead of redshirting his freshman year, or instead of just making the freshman team in high school, he's going to have an opportunity to play. This is where I love recreational baseball, house ball, town ball, whatever you want to call it. If I'm an advanced level team or travel team, let's go play some league during the week so I can learn to get 10, 11, 12 of my guys that can pitch for me, because we all know Sunday afternoon in bracket play, I'm going to need some arms. So let's develop everybody as a pitcher. And what a great time to do that during recreational play, during my league games, where I can put Jimmy in at first base and he can learn to pick the ball a little bit. He can learn to play the hot box over at third. We could do a lot of different things in what I'll call empathetically learning the game. I may not primarily be the right fielder or the second baseman, but a ball hit with runners on down the line, when I'm in right field and I come up firing and I expect a double cut situation, I get it. I empathetically learn, why does the shortstop have to be behind the second baseman? Oh, bad throw. He's there. I get okay. If I'm the second baseman this game and I normally play outfield, I understand why I need to be to a certain depth in the outfield for cuts. It's giving kids an opportunity to see the game from a lot of different perspectives and understand more of the complete game. It builds baseball IQ. It really feeds into their athleticism, especially for those kids who maybe aren't multi-sport athletes. They get to see and do a lot of different things on the baseball field. hey, if I'm the leadoff guy every time, maybe batting 10th, if I'm batting 10 or 11 in my roster, gives me an opportunity to understand how to be a team player and understand how to approach the game from a role. Maybe I'm not the starter in league games. What can I do to help the team win? I think there's a lot of personal, mental growth that can happen through the game of baseball at a lot of ages through playing that recreational thing. And you as the coach can do a lot of cool things. And you know what? One of these kids might just surprise you. Especially if you got a kid that says, Coach, I really want to play shortstop. All right, you know what? We're going to take a few extra ground balls after practice. And you know what? I'm going to throw you in a league game and let's see how you respond. Right? Because we know we can't replicate that hyper tense chaos moment of a game. The ball's hit and that player's like, oh boy, here it comes. Right? Can he calmly react and feed the ball and funnel and make a throw? I'm going to give him that spot. And pardon my tangent here for just a moment, but this is where we get parents aligned with that vision that we're going to be processed and we're going to let kids do things, even if it means it costs us the game. I'm going to pull the pitcher at 50 pitches and I'm going to let another guy come in and throw the ball a little bit and see what he can do in that game, even if he's not our best pitcher. But I got to find out what he can do for us. Can he close out a game? And now, guess what? If we play a tournament every couple of weeks, we jump into a tournament. I got some more guys. I got some depth and I got some knowledge up here, what they're doing. And they have confidence that they can do it as well.
See, I'm going to expand a little bit on what you guys just said. Number one, at the youth level, winning can't be the goal. It just can't be, okay, for that very reason. Okay, so if you're worried about winning a game, you're not going to take your best player at a shortstop because I got to keep him there because we got to win the game. Okay, that should not be the goal. The goal should be to develop all players, move them around. If you win the game, great. If you don't win the game, so be it. And one of the things, too, that came to mind is if you ask any high-level college coach, all right, when he's recruiting, he'll tell you that if he's recruiting 12 players, he wants to recruit 12 shortstops. He's going to look for 12 shortstops to get, okay? Now, are they all going to play shortstop? No. So at the youth levels, if you can develop them in the outfield, maybe on the right side of the infield, whatever, anywhere, catcher, okay? They're going to be that much more valuable to a college coach because they can play other spots.
I don't want to occupy the microphone here all the time, but I want to be real careful for anybody that's listening when we talk about they're recruiting 12 shortstops because I don't want everyone to hear that and go, oh, my kid's got to be the shortstop so he can get recruited. Let's remember, guys, this experience, this journey is not about getting recruited. And so we're talking youth baseball, but for those that see youth baseball as an on-ramp to college baseball, let's just be super clear. And Kevin, KC, you know this. Playing college baseball is really, really hard. Percentage-wise, it's about 5.5% of high school players, right? Let's recognize there are 6.5 million consistent baseball players in youth baseball, right? I know that 16 million or so will experience baseball at some point, but about 6.7 million play routine baseball. Guys, there are only 488,000 high school roster spots in the United States of America, and with contraction of college rosters, there's only 42,000 spots. Now, statistically speaking, those are pretty low as you go up the chain. So let's make sure that we're enjoying and loving this game for as long as we can. Don't make your kid feel like he has to be the starting shortstop and has to be a dude so he can go to college when he's 12. Make sure that, he's excited about hot dogs and ice cream after the ball game. And he has the opportunity to play this game with his buddies from around the block. And that, maybe he'll throw his glove on the handlebars of his bike. I don't know, do kids still ride bikes? I don't know. And meet at the, somewhere in the street and play a game of wiffle ball. My point is, that memory of what this game is going to give him will last way longer than you making sure he's eating 30 grams of protein every day and going to 4 different private lessons a week while he's trying to get his homework in just so he can become the shortstop.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that for me, Jeff, because you hit the nail right on the head.
Off my soapbox. I'm sorry.
All right, guys. So what do you got for next question?
I'm just going to say we see that a lot at the lower divisions, that 10, 12, that the competitiveness outweighs the desire for a lot of development. And moving around of kids. And so once they get out of that sort of 12U season where they could go to Cooperstown, they leave that, and the competitive, that hyper competitiveness that was still there goes away at, I would say, 13, 14 when we're trying to get them into high school. And sometimes it's kind of a letdown because we're getting back into development and there's a bunch of games, but there's no playoffs and things like that we have to go through. And it's, for me, it's always, how do I convince these rabid competitive parents how to take a step back from that 10-12 season and realize the importance of what we're trying to do to get them to still love the game after that. There's a lot of kids that leave after that 12U season that they're done, and you can see it. They're burnt out. They've been yelled at by everybody about everything for the last 2 years, and they're just done. They wanted to play baseball and they weren't allowed to. It was just like, it was almost like a second job. They go to school and then they go to work again. And I struggle with how to get that message across to parents a lot.
That's a tough one. Who wants to take that one first?
Well, 13U, the field changes sizes. And so if you haven't been focusing on the fundamentals from 10, 11, 12, it's almost like starting over at 13. And the fundamentals, what we've been talking about on this call, are critical. Being able to throw, because the field, just think about it, the field changes sizes, but their bodies don't. And so that 13U age group, these kids are still taking their uppercut 12U swings, trying to hit the ball over the fence. And when you become 13, that's a routine fly ball to short right field or short center field. Like, the field dimensions, it just changed so drastically. And just think about the bases become 80 feet. And so I've had some kids that were pretty good at the little league dimensions, and then the base goes to 80 feet. And I was like, this kid's never going to make it to first base because he's so slow, And so, but the fundamentals don't change. And so, like, if you can catch the ball and throw it where it's supposed to go, you're going to get outs. If you can pitch the ball to the catcher and throw strikes, you're going to get outs. And you're going to run into a fastball every now and then and drive it over the outfielder's head. And so, but the kids have to be able to, they have to love it. And so if we allow them to have fun at 10, 11, 12, fall in love with the game at 10, 11, 12, understand that they're going to fail at 10, 11, 12, and make sure that the parents aren't yelling at them because they've done something wrong, because this is a very, very difficult sport. And if the parents can't teach their kids how to deal with failure, how is the kid ever going to learn how to deal with failure? And so if we allow these kids to fail, and those are the most teachable moments. When they fail, they make a mistake, that's when you go wrap your arms around their shoulders and be like, hey, you know what you did there. And he's going to tell you what he did. And it's our job. That's when we get the cue to tell him, hey, just do X, Y, and Z the next time, and you probably won't make that mistake the next time. And that's how you build those kids' confidence, so that when they're 13, they don't go around and play another sport. They stay with baseball. And they know that you have the passion and the energy and the love for them, so that because they show the passion and energy and love for the game of baseball. It's all about making sure that they deal with failure, handle failure, and fall in love with the game at those 10, 11, 12-year-old age groups. You're going to have parents. I'm in a group chat with crazy dads whose kids have graduated college right now. And they were crazy dads. And the reason why I'm in a group chat with them is because they were crazy dads. And I had to reel them in all the time. And we built a relationship, and it's been over 10 years, and we've been in this group chat, and we still have fun talking about old times, and we talk about new times, but they understand and they see the next generation of kids coming through. And I'm like, no, that was y'all. Y'all were the exact same way as those guys were. And so, but it's important that we install that fun and that love and that passion for those kids, because 13U, the game slows down. It gets even worse at 14U. It gets even slower. Just think about it. You got a group of 14-year-olds playing on the same field that major leaguers struggle on. And so it's not going to be fun until they turn around to 16 or 17-year-olds and they add that strength so that they can have some success on a big diamond. And so it's a difficult stage, that 13-year-old age group. So I know what you're talking about, but it's got to be more love than baseball in order for them to have some success.
I have a simple little test that you could do that I learned many, many years ago, okay? Because I think that what you're trying to get at a little bit there, Kevin, was that, how do you get the point across to the parents that you don't have to push so much? Is that right?
Yes.
So, again, story I heard years ago is, your kid is youth baseball age, get a tee, a net, and a bucket of balls and put it out in your backyard. But don't go and push your kid to go out there. Just leave it there. If he goes out there and he hits and he does it on his own, then maybe you might want to do a little bit more with the lessons and this and that. But if he doesn't, and he doesn't go out there and he doesn't work, well, let him play rec ball, let him have fun, and leave him alone. It's a simple little test that I always thought was a great idea because, like you said, if you push that kid to go to lessons and this and that, maybe he doesn't want to do it. So he's going to get burned out. He's going to, lose interest. Whereas if he goes out and does it on his own, well, it's something that he wants.
Hey, Kevin, you talked about failure, and so Jimmy, let's, if we can, in a minute, let's talk about some failure routines and expectations and those things. But I want to go down a little bunny trail here off the main trail just for a second and talk about setting some expectations with parents, because Kevin brought up something really, really important. This game is hard. When it gets challenging, parents that were well-meaning, like we all want to protect our child from that feeling of not being up to par. Like, no, but nobody wants to see your child upset. But that's part of what youth sports teaches kids, is how to handle that emotion, how to handle the reaction when things don't go the way we want it to go. We have to allow them to experience that, develop some strength around it, mental strength around that. We have to have some failure routines. And if we're constantly placing blame, it's the umpire's fault, it's the coach's fault, it's whatever, that child never develops that. And we see it in the workplace. We see adults that never really were able to grasp that, and they can't take accountability or responsibility for things that need to be done. And what a great opportunity for us as coaches to help get the parents on board with my approach to failure. So I think one of the first things you can do within your league with your youth parents, everybody wants to have the player sign a contract, no tobacco, no swearing, da da da. How about some parent contracts? All right, we're going to leave the umpire alone. We're not going to go home and talk about the game on the drive home. We're not going to have a dinner table conversation where we compare you to the other kid that's playing shortstop and you're not. Like, we're going to have some guidelines about how we handle this so that it becomes the child's experience and they learn to battle and work hard for the things that they want. Kind of like Jimmy was just saying. Like, yeah, if he doesn't want to be shortstop, don't tell him he's got to be the shortstop. But the most important thing you can do amongst even all that is to get your parents on board with your plan about a development and process-oriented program first. This is what it will look like. We're going to play spots. We're going to move guys around that may cost us a game. We are going to hit your kid 40 ground balls, and I intend for him to miss 25 of them. I hate to mix sports analogies here, but if a Formula One driver goes the same racing line at the same speed every time, he's not getting faster. He's got to push a little faster, maybe change the line, go deeper into the corner. And by definition, he's going to spin the car out a couple of times, but he's going to figure out how much further and where he can push the racing line. Just the same as with your outfielder. If I hit him balls in the gap that are 15 feet from him and he routinely catches those, fine, I'm going to start hitting him fly balls that are 20 feet away. Can he get the read and get the jump? Is he going to get bummed out because I keep hitting balls 20 feet away from him? Yeah, but sooner or later, he's going to change his first step. He's going to get a different angle on the ball. He's going to read the bat a little differently. Same thing with ground balls. Man, I'm going to smoke some at him. He's going to learn that backhand a little bit more, right? His body is going to learn to collect itself and do what it needs to do to achieve the task at hand. And if I got mom and dad in the background, blah, 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 he's hearing that and he's not internalizing and working hard. And I need parents to get on the board with me that I got your kid. I'm going to get him good. I'm going to develop failure routines. We're going to learn to breathe a little bit. We're going to learn that I expect you. And I, as coach, if you make a mistake, even in a game, if there is an error, it's not a mistake. It's just an error. It happens. Stuff happens in baseball. Right. So I want to change the word mistake and failure. They're not interchangeable, right? A mistake's when you put an extra zero on a $1,000 check. I don't know. That's a mistake, right? An error is when just something happens. We got more pitches, we got more innings, we got more games. If it's the last out of the game, it's cool. It was an error. It happens. We'll get them next game, right? There's a lot of youth baseball to play. So I need parents to be on board that we're going to deal with that. So we could talk here in a few minutes about failure, but until I get parents bought in to that's how we're going to coach our youth, get it back to what Kevin said, where these kids are just playing the game, that changes everything. When everybody's on the same page, we're just playing the game. 13 with the change in the fields, 14 with the change in the fields. They're learning and discovering and picking up new skills, and it's okay. That competitiveness has to give way to the understanding we're getting better in preparation for the next phase of our career.
As far as failure goes, something that you guys can take back to your league with you is I have a little protocol that I do when, like Jeff said, player makes an error. It's really simple. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Then they'll just call out the play. 2 outs, play to first, and then they got to tap their chest and say, I'm back. Very simple, okay? And go ahead.
It goes for coach, too.
Well,
right?
Wait a second.
We all know.
I was getting there. I was getting there.
Don't call us out.
Can't handle failure.
I'll come out of the dugout, top step in the dugout, and I'll look at my player. If he didn't go through his protocol, and I'll tap my chest, and he knows what I mean. And all of this is done to get their mind off of what just happened, okay? And get their mind, get them present again so that they can move forward, okay? But again, to Jeff's point, actually, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to let you talk about that when coaches make mistakes. Go ahead.
You're going right where you need to go. I'll just say this. Look, I think amongst the 5 of us here, who's the first person the kid looks at when the ground ball goes between the wickets? You're looking at coach, right?
Yeah.
Well,
and when he's done looking
at
Dad, well, that depends on how loud Dad is. Yeah, but he's certainly the second guy he looks at. Right, is Dad. So, I always give this example. 2 years ago in the World Series, Game 5, right? Aaron Judge, routine fly ball, right? Drops it in a really, really important game. It's like the biggest stage in the world for baseball at the highest level of baseball. And then the camera flips over to Boone, who's on the bench, right? And his arms are up on the fence. Nothing. Nothing. Now, you're going to tell me what that looks like at a 10U ball game?
You got arms going up in the air.
We've gone over this 30 times in practice. We got to have that ball, right? And the kid's freaking out. Look, if Aaron Boone and Aaron Judge are like, cool, it happens, why can't my 10U coach and my 10U ball player and the 10U mom and dad be like, cool, it happens. It just does. That's the beauty of our game, guys. Right? Unfortunately, unlike basketball or soccer where it's so fast and you don't have time to remember, right? Because the truth is, we know that in youth baseball, you're going to touch the ball on average of 2 to 3 times a game. It's pretty sad if you're an outfielder. Pretty sad if you're, not the shortstop for sure. But you don't touch the ball a lot. So you got a lot of time to think about it. So we have to help them find some recovery routines. We have to, as coaches, we got to be that even keel. So I always tell coaches, if it's just crazy, he knows he made the error. You don't need to say anything to him. You don't know if grandma and grandpa showed up to the game for the first time that they were ever see him, and you're going to yell at him from the dugout and embarrass him in front of, maybe he's 14 and he's got his first girlfriend. She shows up at the game. We got to embarrass him for that? It's not needed. And my favorite is when the kid just taps his shoulder, like Jimmy said, it was me, I got it. I know I don't need to say something. He knows. So I'm going to let him do whatever he needs to do to self-regulate, find his moment, get back into the ball game. I might put an arm around him when he comes in. What'd you see out there? Oh, coach, I lost it in the sun. Okay, right on. We'll work some sun balls next practice. I got you. Yeah. And off we go. Hey, grab your helmet. We got to go. So I really look for coaches to encourage it. And I tell coaches, and with all due respect, I love my parents for supporting the kids. But, when there's a runner on second and the ball's hitting the gap in right field, and then I got everybody going, home, home. Man, y'all are wrong. It's second base. Right? With 2 outs, that guy took off on the pitch. The play is not. So I love you trying to help my players out, but usually you're wrong. So just cheer and clap and say, I love you, son. Leave the coaching to me. We got it.
All right, guys, what do you got for the next topic? Robert, your shot.
Yeah, this one actually comes from my son. I was like, "Hey, I'm going to be on this podcast, and we got some really experienced coaches here that are going to share some knowledge. What would you ask them?" And the first thing he asked was, "What is it that you see at the high school or college level that is what skill or maybe it's baseball IQ items or situations do you see at the high school and college level that you're like, man, like they should have learned that in Little League, you know what I mean? Like rec ball, like this is some basic stuff, and I understand, you know, that kind of goes back to the fundamental stuff that we talked about is man, they really don't have that fundamental. Still, they haven't figured that one out, right? But I think he just wanted to know, like, what is it do I need to work on right now? I'm a 13-year-old trying in 2 years playing, hopefully on a high school team, right? And so I'll just turn that to you guys to see, what you've seen and what you'd like to suggest to the team, to the guys here.
So two things. Number one, has your son been coming to my practices? Is number one. And number two, has he been listening to this show? Because I complain about this stuff all the time. Go ahead, guys. Hit him.
Cheers. Kevin, are we going to say the same thing on the count of three? You ready? 1, 2, 3. Base running.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Oh, I got
Base
the
running. Yeah, no, that
makes.
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So baseball IQ. I learned how to play the game by watching. I grew up in Chicago. I know I got these red stuff on, but Chicago runs through my veins, and so go Bears, by the way. Um, uh, I grew up listening to Harry Carey and Steve Stone teach the game of baseball while the Cubs were on TV. I can tell when a kid watches baseball versus a kid that shows up to practice because mom and dad brought him there. I can like those kids, they have a different confidence about them. They have different instincts when the game starts. They kind of understand, they know what to do in certain situations because the announcers in when you're watching Major League Baseball, there's a lot of things that you shouldn't do when you're watching Major League Baseball, but those announcers usually teach you how to play the game and teach you things that your youth or your youth level coach may not teach you. Um, so I tell him to watch as much baseball as possible, and his instincts, like he's going to be head and shoulders above his teammates because I bet you that I would say 80 to 90% of kids don't watch baseball. They watch the highlights. We're in this microwave society now where MLB will send out the highlights for the night. My son was a Division I baseball player, and like the only time he wouldn't sit down and watch baseball with me in the house, but if I took him to a game, he didn't want to leave before the ninth inning was ended. And so, um, and most kids are like that. And so, but he'll send me a highlight reel, be like, look at this play, Dad. And you don't learn how to play the game watching highlight reels. You learn how to play the game by watching it and watching it as much as possible. That kid that you put the bucket and the net and the bat in the backyard is that same kid. When he finishes that, he's gonna go inside and turn on a baseball game and watch it. And so, instinctively, the more baseball he watches, the more confidence he's gonna have because he's gonna start hearing things over and over again that he's like, okay, that makes sense. So then when he's in the game, he's gonna know he's gonna be one step ahead of everybody else, which in turn makes him a better baseball player.
Kevin, that is good. That is real good. In fact, I heard something really cool this week. One of our fellow Team KC coaches sent me something. This is practice is where you learn the game. Practice is where practice where you learn the game. Games are where you learn to compete. So for coaches that were just listening to you talk, youth coaches, the takeaway from what Casey is talking about here is if your kids aren't going to watch games like we grew up watching games, and man, I miss Harry Carey, WGN, man, that was back when we only had two channels, TNT, we could watch the
Yeah.
Braves or the Cubs. But as a youth coach, that means you've got to turn practice into some situational things. You've got to give outfielders live power shag reads off of batting practice. You got to build in chaos into your practices where you force, every ball that's hit during a BP session with my defense on the field. Let's say, make up a rule. If it hits the grass on the fly, we got to go to two. We're taking two every base. Let's get caught in a rundown. Let's make some things happen so players start thinking about IQ. If I have a runner on second and the batter runner hits a ball, have that runner from second base as he's rounding third take a few extra shuffles as if he were to go home. Let's see how the outfielder responds. Let's bring the infield in situations where we wouldn't have them in so that we can build the IQ. Because you're right, Casey, they're not watching the game. They're not getting that. So let's teach them through practice those situations. This not mindless ground balls and drills. The drills to me are about teaching muscle memory, right?
Yes.
Feeds to the chest, elbows out, center of the body, athleticism, move, right? I do like the independent work, but a lot of the drills the stuff they can do on their own. When we're together as a team, we're going to institute some of this situational stuff and learn how to play baseball. Kids will tell you their numbers. Man, coach, I got a velo of this. I got an exit velo. Great, man. 92 ball four, still ball four, babe. Right? Hey, that's an outstanding pull down. 91 from the outfield, but you flew it over the catcher's head. Right? So we've got to understand long hop versus no hop when we got balls coming in from the outfield to our infielders looking to make a play at the base. Right? We got to understand why the first baseman versus the third baseman are covering in the middle infield on relays. Because that's how the game is won. It starts with the fundamentals, as we spoke about earlier, but that baseball IQ is huge. For me, it's not my thing. I think there's probably a lot of things kids need to learn, but that is a big one, Kevin. I'm still a base running guy, but I just wanted to tag on to your by baseball IQ thing, because coaches do need to teach it in their practices so it can be executed. And for youth coaches listening to your podcast, Jimmy, if you're not developing IQ as a team, you can't expect it to happen in the game, and you can't get mad when it doesn't happen in the game.
Yeah. One of the things, well, a few things. First of all, as a high school coach, I can tell you, Robert, that everything that Kevin and Jeff just said, I see at the high school level. Base running is not there. Rundowns is not there. You want to see me lose my mind, you see an outfielder airmail a cutoff, okay? And they do it all the time. Okay, so nobody ever told them the importance of hitting the cutoff and holding that runner from getting to second base. There's all of this stuff that, to Kevin's point, if they're watching games, they'll see it, okay, and they'll understand it, and the announcers will talk about it. It's one of my pet peeves because I feel that the game is kind of eroding in that aspect because they're not being taught at the younger levels how to do these things. Very simple, run down the first baseline, step on the front of the bag, look right, turn left. Very simple, okay? But youth coaches, I guess, I don't know what it is that they don't understand the importance of that maybe, and they think it's minutia, and it's not, it just won't have an effect on the game, but still needs to be taught, even though it's very, very simple. So, yes, it's watching the game. Training, like Jeff said, muscle memory, okay? A lot of the hitting drills that I do with my players, when they first are introduced to them, they look at me like, what is this? They've never seen it before. And, I explain to them what Jeff said. We're creating muscle memory. This is going to do this. This is going to do that. So those are important things. And I think either Kevin or Jeff mentioned it before, is the why behind everything. The why behind everything is so important.
Yeah, you know what, Jimmy, you said something there. I'm sticking with Kevin's thing here about baseball IQ. Look, guys, baseball's 95% minutia, right?
Yeah.
There are the highlight reels,
Yes.
right? Kevin and his son can sit down and roll through the TikTok scroll and see lots of cool, but that's not baseball. And that's just dudes being athletes and getting some cool stuff done. Like, Bobby Witt looking like Superman, making some plays, full airmail and right. It's crazy. But it's 95% the routine ground ball. It's 95% getting a good jump on a fly ball and running it down in the gap. And to your point, Jimmy, outfielder's job. Like I always tell kids, what's your job? Catch the ball. No. Outfielder's primary job is to prevent 90s.
Yeah.
Whether, it's a fly ball, we'll prevent the first 90. Ball down on the ground, I'm going to keep them at first base and prevent the second 90 so we can get a double play on the infield. Right? It's prevent 90s. Keep it simple. It's minutia. It's boring. I get it. Baseball's kind of a smart people sport in that respect, right? Like we do the little stuff really good and the game goes our way. The other thing is you're talking about drills and things. Here's another thing youth coaches can work with their players. I always say, this is my kind of little saying, right? 5 times 4 is better than 20. What does that mean? All right, here's what it looks like in batting practice or off a tee. If your kid gets in there and just takes 20 hacks, he did nothing. He just took 20. So I don't know what he's working on, but 5 times 4, hey, if we're doing flips or darts from behind the L screen, bunt 1, bunt 3, get him over, get him in, hit and run. There's my 5 hitting situations, 20 swings, 5 apiece, right? That's 25, I guess. Bad math, but whatever. That's Colorado State math right there, fellas. But you see my point, right? Give them a purpose, right? If we're going to go live BP, put a runner on second base and say, hey, get him over. Don't just hack. Make him do something that's baseball IQ oriented. Look, we could even talk about it. If we're doing intra squad, if you're a high school guy, if you're a youth guy, youth coaches, please, please, please don't ignore the fact that you should have a coaching buddy. Here's why. If you're in a league, you get your 1 day or 2 days of practices, right? I don't know how you guys do it, Kevin, Robert. You give your coaches 2 days or 1 days of a field, right? Okay, well, Kevin, I know you know this in Ohio, and we get in Kansas City. Man, it's going to rain. It's going to be cold in the spring. You're going to get snow maybe. So if I got my 1 day of practice and I get rained out, man, I'm screwed. Now, if I have me a coaching buddy and I understand how to run a practice with 2 teams on the field where we can get some mass fungo, 2 coaches hitting fungo, I've done a lot of things. One, I can have more coaches per player, right? Because I can combine both teams. We have an extra day built into the schedule where we're working. Teams can still do independent work. We can still get our individual BP, but we can do a lot of stuff together. But here's the cool thing. Now you can have an inter squad. So now me as the coach, I can stand with the guy who's on deck and tell him what his job on deck is. I can stand with the kid in the hole or the next couple guys in the lineup on the bench, and we can talk about what we're seeing from the pitchers, what we're looking for. Guys, if he starts everybody off with the fastball, be ready to hit. If we have runners on, this is what I'm going to do. Hey, every time he gets to 0-2, this is the pitch he throws. Every time he gets behind, this is what he does. Hey, watch the guy in right field. What kind of arm does he have? And we could teach them the game because they're not consuming it like we did. So we can use these 2 team practices as a youth coach. And the takeaway is I get better player coach ratios. I get an extra day. I can do more things on the field. And Jimmy, I'll raise my hand now. If you have coaches that are interested in that, want to know how to run a 2-team practice, let me know. I'll drop some practice plans for them. And I know Casey's got that in the book too. We could do this.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Jeff, I'm sorry to cut you off, but at the high school level, I work out my JV and my varsity together. Okay, they work out together because we have 5 coaches. Okay, and to your point, we're doing an inter squad. Where am I? I'm not standing in a dugout. I'm standing out behind second base. I'm out there coaching the players. You have more coaches around to be able to possibly stop something and say, hey guys, what happened there, and maybe correct it. So yeah, I love that idea of getting youth teams to work together, get more coaches on the field, and it's a win-win for the players.
And you can coach the game.
Yeah, that is something that, I don't think we take advantage of at the youth level for sure is the combo practices. I think there's some guys that will do a scrimmage, but that's only after a couple practices. And it's, there's something against the idea of like, oh, there's a competitive edge that they're, gaining because we're, working together. And then that just goes to, what we already talked about, being too competitive about what we're really trying to accomplish with these kids, these players, right? And so, that's something that we do want to do. And the other part of it is we're a big league. We have over 600, close to 700 kids playing. There's only so many fields in the area that we can use. So it's a twofold thing that, we can go ahead and take advantage of some combo practices. I think that's something that really should be pushed from, for all the little leagues out there, is like do some of that combined practice stuff.
All right, guys, we have time for one more question.
Real quick though, Jimmy, I do want to just hit on base running.
Yeah,
So
go
I
ahead.
want to follow up. Guys, let's stop celebrating singles. Let's teach our kids. We're not going to do the bow and arrow thing because we got a routine signal. And guys, hustle doubles win ball games. You got a ball in the grass in the outfield. In the very least, teach your kids, take that turn so hard at first base, like you sell it. To Jimmy's point about airmailing, you never know if that outfielder sees you take that turn hard and freaks out. Next thing you know, the ball's in the fence, past the bag, and you're standing on second base. As a coach, I can run a lot of offense with no outs or one out and a runner on second. We're pretty lazy with our base running. Aggressive steals, aggressive reads, understanding tag situations, understanding what my job is at second base with less than two outs or with two outs. It's a lost art. I don't want to go all Ricky Henderson on, but Ricky would run, baby. Let's go. And your kids probably don't know who Ricky Henderson is, and that's a whole different podcast. My point is, though, we can, even if we're not the best fielding team, boys, we can win some ball games by applying pressure on the bases. We can force that team to make mistakes by being really good and really selling it and really with earnest wanting, like, right, the goal isn't first base, the goal isn't second base, right? We know what the goal is. The goal's home.
Yeah.
Let's act like that's what the goal is.
Yeah.
We do base running as soon as we finish our everyday drills. Like we get right into base running and spend sometimes 10 minutes base running, and then we get into the rest of the practice. We do base running every single practice.
Yeah, we actually start our practices with base running because, before we do any stretching, I feel that the muscles need to be warmed up a little bit. So we'll do our base running as soon as we get there, and then we'll go into stretching and then move on. So, all right, guys, hit me up with one more question.
Hey, I'm going to turn this over to Kevin. Kevin, you can go ahead and take that last one.
Jimmy, you and I have talked about the mental health side of baseball at, coming down from the high school level. How much of an emphasis should that be down at the lower levels? And when do we start talking about it? I mean, 5-6 T-balls, obviously probably not the right place, but where does that stuff start to come into the game, and when should we really start working on it?
Can I start that one, guys?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I believe that the whole game, in a nutshell, really comes down to the mental performance of athletes. And I've said it a million times that if you take an athlete that is very, very talented, but has a weak mental side of the game, it's not going to be as good as somebody that is strong mentally, but may not be as talented. Okay. So I believe that at early ages, again, we don't have to start getting into, deep stuff with them, but you could teach them at, I don't know, I'm going to say it maybe 7, 8. You could start teaching them how to breathe. You could start teaching them breathing techniques. Very simple. When you get up to bat, 1 foot in the batter's box, stare at the barrel of the bat, deep breath in, deep breath out. You could teach that to a young kid. No reason for him not to know that. You could teach him a little bit of visualization. So, again, close your eyes and visualize the ball going into the gap. You can teach a young kid to do that. Now, are they going to do it right in the beginning? No. Okay, they're going to close their eyes and do it. But the more you do it year after year after year, then they'll get better at it. So I believe that mental performance is very important. I think you can start it at young ages. You just can't be as complex. Like I wouldn't have them meditate like I do my players. Okay, that's something that takes a little bit more work. But I think you can start them, say 7 or 8. I don't see why you couldn't. Guys, what do you think?
It's a great question. It's a great question. The sport has changed. I've been coaching a little over 20 years, and the sport has changed over like since COVID and social media has come along. It's changed in terms of mental health and wellness. And I've talked with other program leaders, and I didn't realize, like, I see it a lot here in Cincinnati, and I started asking questions to other programs, and they deal with it a lot. And so it's funny, I had to do a presentation here recently on baseball, and because it's become so consistent in my life, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a presentation on mental health and wellness. And then I started doing research on it, and I was like, I'd be a fool to get on stage and, and speak to this. And so Um, it's we when we came back from Christmas break, we shut our facility down and we do a week of mental health and wellness for our high school kids. 2 days for softball, 2 days for baseball. There's no gloves, there's no bats, there's no balls at all. We partner with Children's Hospital and they bring facilitators in and they help kids. They teach them, they just talk, they speak to it as experts do. We've been doing that for 3 years. We've never done anything for our coaches, and we've been fortunate enough. We're partnered with Jackson Yale and the Center for Childhood Justice. They're coming in on Monday to do a mental health and wellness training for our coaches. You got to keep in mind there are people that go to college and study for 4 years to deal with mental health and wellness, and so they're coming in and they're going to show us how to run practices and help deal with kids that deal with mental health and wellness training. The anxieties. You'd be amazed that you think your best players probably deal with it more than the players that are at the bottom of the totem pole. It's at what age do you start it? I would say the sooner the better, and it kind of goes back to teaching those kids how to deal with failure. That's part of the process. The breathing, like Jimmy said, it's honestly, the more I learn about it, the more I talk about it with our kids. But it's an ongoing epidemic, but it has a lot to do with social media. Nobody's ever had a bad game on social media. You ever seen anybody put 4 strikeouts on social media? And so, no, not at all. And so, but kids think that the best players, the kids that are signing to go to these colleges, they get 3 hits and a home run every single game. They think they're the new age Babe Ruth, and that's who kids are comparing themselves to. And then when they don't do it in their games, that's when those anxiety kicks in. Or when that fly ball comes to them and they're like, oh God, I literally had a kid tell me, he's like, Coach, I get nervous when the game's on the line because I don't want to let the team down. And I was like, thank you for sharing that. But like when you leave our program, please don't tell anybody that because they're going to look at you differently, you know? And so, and I tried to deal with that and it's the best that I could, but I didn't know how because when I was growing up, it was like you got to get tougher. If you're not tough, you're not, you got to go find something else to do. And I used to be like that, but I've definitely adjusted to the times. And when kids give me information or they share stuff like that, and I could talk going on about this. We had a survey that week that we shut our facility down of our 15U, no, they're 16 this year. Our 16U kids, there were 11 of them there, and there was a question on the survey, and they said, would you talk to your parent or your coach about your anxieties or your mental health problems? And 10 said no, and 1 said yes. And then my coach, I told my coach that my coach went, he's kind of joking around with one of the kids and he was like, hey man, you can talk to me about your mental health and wellness. And the kid was like, Coach, I wouldn't talk to you and I wouldn't talk to my parents about it. I'll just figure it out on my own. And these kids need to know that the adults that are around them, we are around them for a reason and to help them deal with those types of situations. I get into coaching because I wanted to be a mentor and a role model. I'm not a baseball coach. Baseball is just a vehicle. And me being a mentor and a role model means those kids that play for me, any kid that can play for me can call me and ask me about anything in life, not just baseball, anything in life. And so, and I want the kids in our program to know and understand that that's what this is about. So to answer your question, I don't know. Just do the best you can. Like I said, I think my best coaching thing is when I wrap my arms around my kids or I give my kids a bro hug and I tell them I love them and I was like, look, I'm here for you and you're gonna have some bad days. Like that was very good. Like I got paid to play professional baseball, but I remember my first inter squad game in junior college. I struck out 5 times because a kid threw a splitter and I'd never seen it before. And so I swung and missed everything for the rest of the day. I wound up getting drafted at the end of the year, but you imagine having to deal with that, and I'm in a completely different new environment, and all I thought about was my high school coach telling me, "You got to get tougher. You got to get tougher. You got to get tougher." But it's so much bigger now for these kids, and so just be there for them and let them know that you're there for them. And when you see kids struggling, pull them to the side. You can't get them in front of everybody. Just pull them to the side and say, "Hey, man, are you having a good day? Is there something that you want to talk about?" And I do that all the time. And like I've kind of built some relationships with some of the kids that are coming up through our program, and hopefully we continue these relationships through like helping them deal with their mental health and wellness. So
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. Jeff, do you have anything to add to that?
No, Kevin, that's great. Can I just sum it up by saying what Kevin's talking about? I'm listening to it, and it's just Kevin's talking about coaching is your trust moment, man. That's what that is. That relationship with those kids. You're building that trust moment. You back to our earlier conversation about being around, talking to them, know their girlfriend's name, know their brothers and sisters and moms and dads, know if they're good students, bad students. It's your trust moment for you to have a relationship with that athlete that's bigger than just this game we're playing. Man, that's great stuff, Kevin.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is so important, Kevin, and you touched on it a little bit, is you must let every single player know that you care about them. Okay, every single one of my players will hear the words come out of my mouth. "I love you, bud." Okay, I'll put my arm around them. And just going to share a quick little story about while we were at the ABCA. I have one of my former players who's now a freshman in college. He texted me. He said, "Coach, I need to talk." So I left the meeting I was in. I called him. I said, "What's going on?" Well, he just had Tommy John surgery. So he's in the recovery process, and he can't throw, he can't hit, he can't do anything. And he said, "Coach, I'm struggling." He said, "Because I feel like I'm falling behind." So I said to him, I said, "Well, look," I said, "let's look at this logically." I said, "What can you do?" Okay, number one, we can only control what we can control. You can't control that the doctors are holding you back. So we can control the mental side of the game. So what I did is I sent him 2 books, and I said to him, "I want you to read these books, okay? And now you won't fall behind. You will still be getting better as a baseball player, okay? And then when you're ready to throw and hit, you can do that." And I ended the conversation with, "Do not hesitate to pick up the phone and call me again. I love you, bud. Anything I can do to help you, let me know." That's coaching in a nutshell. That's the way you coach players, okay? Let them know you care. Let them know you love them, and that's it. And if more youth coaches would do that, instead of beating kids up, yelling at them, berating them, belittling them, there's no reason for that. They're kids. Love them.
Yeah, Jim, I was thinking, to maybe answer the question myself. I guess now I'll take a stab at it. But Kevin's right. Like, there are some tremendous resources, whether it's Positive Coaching Alliance, partnerships. I know you guys had something with local. We got Blue Cross Blue Shield here in Kansas City. The Royals have an amazing documentary, Not Good Enough. If you Google Not Good Enough or Shut Out the Stigma, that talks a little bit about this. It actually talks a lot about it, and I would encourage listeners to go Google Shut Out the Stigma. It's tough. I feel like I'm a pretty good coach, but I watch that and I'm like, I wasn't always a pretty good coach, because I see myself in a lot of the behaviors outlined in that documentary. So for the youth coach, what can they do? Well, obviously, getting 8, 9, 10-year-olds to go through a PCA-led discussion on mental health isn't going to work. Parents don't necessarily understand at that age. But remember, coaches, it's about the culture that you begin to establish. We don't have to necessarily call it mental health, but how do I, as the coach, respond to failure? Do the parents and the players understand and expect failure as a part of this learning process? Am I truly process-oriented in what I say and what I do? Meaning, I don't say something after every error. I don't even have body reaction. My wife pointed this out to me years ago when I was learning these things. She said, "You do great. You don't yell at the players, but you still do this." You cover your face and hands, and you lean back. Like, oh, the kids see that. So, from a culture standpoint, I don't want to be additive to the stress they're probably already feeling. I want to be Aaron Boone and be positive, right? Cool as a cucumber. I'm already thinking next play. We're good. And my own son, who's going to be a college baseball player, told me this. We were working sometimes stuff, and he's like, "Dad, you're saying something after every rep, because I have to figure this out." And it's right. It's not what I know. It's what they know, right? I have to give them time because they're young. Their bodies, like we said earlier, no fine motor skill coordination, no fully developed muscle memory. They're trying to learn and figure it out and find the pathways from the brain to the body to make it work. So if you hit him 3 or 4 or 5 ground balls, hit him the first one, hit him the second one, so on. And on the fifth one, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? And let's see, if he's got it, he just can't do it. Well, that's different than he just doesn't understand what he's doing. Now I can coach that, right? Like if he knows what he's supposed to do, his body just won't. That's very different. So trying to help them. So coaches establish that culture of trust, establish that culture of this is a failure okay zone. Support them, and as you progress older and older, we can introduce some of the things. I love, Kevin, what you said. Maybe I have somebody, there are so many resources, have somebody come in and talk to our team at a preseason meeting, mid-season check-in, whatever. How you doing? And I'll leave you with my story, Jimmy. Do you guys know who Mark Rober is? You ever see YouTube? Your kids follow him?
Yes.
Mark
Yes.
Rober is a genius. He's an engineer, former NASA scientist, but he has this philosophy and he calls it the Super Mario effect. And the Super Mario effect is this, that kids will continuously play this game over and over and over, even though, you fall in a pit, you get hit by a turtle shell. But the kids intrinsically understand the aim of the game is to save the princess. And so they learn and understand that failure along the way is a learning opportunity towards saving the princess. Need to jump here. Need to land on the turtle shell and kick it. Got it. I die, start over, do it all again until eventually I save the princess. Isn't that the goal of what we're doing with youth sports? The goal is play again next year, right? The failure along the way is acceptable. And these kids left alone in their room, right? Think about Fortnite, right? They die and they wait to be respawned back in the game. Right? They're with their buddies, right? They got 6 of their buddies and they make a team. That's the best part. I'm with my buddies in the battle. I die. I get to it. So my philosophy on this is if you want your kids to stop playing video games, stand over their shoulder and coach them. Because that's what we're doing with youth sports. We're over the top every rep. Do this, do that. Why did you do that? We talked about that. I promise you they'll quit playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the corollary is left alone to learn and figure it out. They fall in love. They're with their friends and they keep playing. So again, I'm not saying travel ball doesn't have its goodness, but that's where rec ball's great. I'm with my buddies from middle school, elementary school. We're all together. Let them figure it out. Little schoolyard. Once in a while, just roll the gear out. Establish that culture that we're going to learn and have fun. And you know what? Things will get better. I'm sorry. There you go. Off my soapbox again.
Well, guys, I got to tell you, I think this was fantastic. First shot doing this, and I think it really worked out well. Kevin, Jeff, thank you for your expertise. I mean, I love all of your answers. I thought this was great. Kevin and Robert, thanks for coming on. Great questions. And guys, I look forward to getting this out there, and I look forward to doing this time and time again. I think this is a great format. And I hope we helped you guys. Did we?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, guys. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll let you know when this is going to be released. Now, was that good or what? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I enjoy this type of format because, I don't know, maybe I have a big mouth and I like to talk a lot. I don't know. But having Kevin Woodard and Robert Wallinger peppering us with questions was fantastic. And I think we need more of this. I think that, there are a lot of misconceptions out there about what youth baseball is supposed to be. And when you take, 2 guys like Jeff Sopha and Kevin Coe and put them in a situation where people can ask them their opinions on how we should really be going about developing our young players, well, it's a win-win for everybody. I think this is something that I would really like to move forward and do more of in the future. I mean, I have a ton of guys that are well-versed in the development of young baseball players that we can call on to answer your questions. But all of this is going to depend on you people out there that listen to this show. Send me emails. Reach out to me on the website. Offer to come on the show. Come on the show. You could see it's a lot of fun. I mean, you get to ask your questions. You get to debate with, guys, like I said, that are very knowledgeable about how we should be doing things. And I just think it's great. So the more of you out there that will want to come on and ask questions, I just think it would be great for the youth baseball world. So I hope you enjoyed it. I did. And with your help, we can make this a regular thing for everybody to enjoy and everybody to learn from. So, if you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Visit the website at thectbshow.net. Listen to your favorite episodes and please leave us a review. You can also reach out to the show on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and get this, the old man has finally got us on TikTok. Keeps me young. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, please drop us an email at clearingthebases@gmail.com. Your feedback helps us bring you the best content and reach more people in the baseball community just like you. And also, let me know if you'd like to be a guest. Until then, coaches and players, keep practicing, stay positive, and remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.